So a couple of years back, while thumbing through Amazon Prime Video, I came across a show called Outer Range, and on a whim, I decided to give it a chance. And boy, was I glad I did. I don't know what it is lately, but a lot of my favorite shows are ones that I didn't expect to like right out of the gate. Never judge a book, right? Anyway, I thought it was a good first season, as did most of the audience and critics. Okay, cool, let's wait for season 2, right? Now, season 2 of Outer Range was released not too long ago, and I devoured the second season in 3 nights. Not something I usually do because sometimes I like to play with my food. But you know how it is when you get fully immersed in a good story and you can't peel yourself away. Literally just a few hours after finishing up season 2, I found out that season 3 of Outer Range was canceled. That's a wrap. Just like that, no soup for you. Now we've all been there. You discover a cool new show, you get all emotionally invested in the characters and the story, only for the rug to be pulled right out from under you for reasons. We've all suffered the gut punch that is a cancellation of a beloved TV show. But you know what? A cancellation doesn't mean it was a complete waste of time, as long as you enjoyed it. So I don't know, maybe this is copium or my weird little attempt at exacting revenge on some faceless corporal exec somewhere out there. But I decided to make this recommendation video in tribute to all of the good shows that were canceled well before they were over, but still come highly recommended because they were just that good. Big shout out to the channel patrons. Thank you so much for helping me make this dream a reality. I'm getting closer and closer to my goal with every passing day, and I am fully grateful. All right, tinfoil tight, let's dive. Now I want to start things off by talking about the show I mentioned in the intro, Outer Range. I figured let's do this while the emotional damage is still fresh. So what is Outer Range? Outer Range follows the story of Royal Abbott, a seasoned rancher fighting to protect his land and family from a rival rancher that he's got a long and somewhat ugly history with. As tensions arise, Royal uncovers a shocking secret buried deep in his property. A gaping void of unknown origin appears on a piece of his land, and all types of crazy kick off. This extraordinary discovery sends ripples through his world. The thing that I love the most about Outer Range is how it manages to mix its western grit with the sci-fi elements almost seamlessly. Now, for the uninitiated, don't let the fact that it looks like a Yellowstone episode fool you. This is not your standard rancher drama. If I had to compare it to another, I'd say it reminds me a lot of a sci-fi series called Dark, albeit a little slower paced and much easier to follow. Outer Range depends on its carefully crafted cinematography that manages to transform the normally peaceful pastoral atmospheres of the Midwestern plains into eerie, nightmarish landscapes similar to that of Jordan Peele's Nope. So as I mentioned, the central mystery of the show revolves around the mysterious void that appears on the Abbott Ranch. Now, as Royal and the others around him investigate its secrets, they encounter strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena. So the show explores the impact of this discovery on their lives while gradually unraveling the nature of the void and its potential connection to a larger cosmic force. So why did it get canceled? This one is hard to figure out because, like most of the shows in this video, the show was doing well and getting lots of eyeballs. This cancellation recently happened, so the real story might not surface for some time. But from what I can tell, the show was canceled because of the high production cost, which I can imagine given the quality behind the show, and paying the cast got to be too much after season 2. So yeah, like so many good shows, Outer Range has been relegated to the scrap heap of broken titles, but I still think there is enough story here in the first 2 seasons to warrant giving this one a watch. So next, I want to talk about a show that I mentioned in a previous video, but I'm going to mention it again because I got to get the word out. The OA is a fantastic show, especially if your aim is to get lost in a world that teeters on the line between a dreamlike dark fantasy and the real world. If that's the case, then this show's got you covered. Initially intended to be a 5-season series, the OA was cut short just after its 2nd season. So what is the OA? Well, that's not exactly an easy question to answer. It's a hard show to categorize. It follows the enigmatic Prairie Johnson, a character who reappears after a 7-year disappearance with no memory of where she was during her captivity, and somehow her vision has been restored. As she reconnects with her family, she forms an unlikely bond with a group of troubled high school students, and strange events begin to unfold, revealing that her past holds a deep secret. The series delves into themes of identity, trauma, and the power of human connection, while also exploring elements of science fiction, fantasy, and the supernatural all at once. And I gotta say, it does a pretty good job at straddling those fences. With its intricate storytelling and an unexpected twist, the OA is a thought-provoking show that challenges viewers to question reality and embrace the unknown. The big mystery in this story is, of course, the disappearance of Prairie and what happened to her while she was gone. How did she survive her captivity? What happened to her during those missing years? But more importantly, how did she acquire her newfound abilities? I'm not going to get into that, but you'll see if you watch it. Now let's talk about the cancellation. I can tell you that when the show's cancellation announcement went out, fans were not too happy about it. There was even a petition that went out for Netflix to continue the series, and it did get a fair amount of momentum. But this is Netflix we're talking about, so once they decide a show is canceled, that's it. It ain't coming back unless another platform decides to pick up the deal. Basically, it doesn't matter how good a show is or how many views it gets. If it's not getting new subs, it's liable to get dropped, which is fine for the platform, but sucks for you and me, and it especially sucks for the producers of the show. The third show on the list is another recent casualty of the streaming era of TV, and it's called Archive 81. This one slipped quietly under the radar for me. I didn't hear about it until late, but I happened to be watching a movie called Black Box, which is another film starring Mamadou Atié, and immediately took a liking to his acting style. So trying out Archive 81 was kind of automatic. Now there's only one season for Archive 81, but it's still a very good one. I would describe Archive 81 as a blend of horror, mystery, and time-bending intrigue. The series follows Dan Turner, a video archivist, tasked with restoring damaged tapes from the 1990s on behalf of a mysterious group. Of course, he must complete this task by his lonesome in a freaky remote facility, because where else would you do something like that? As he delves into the found footage, strange things begin to happen, and Dan finds himself immersed in the world of a young female documentary filmmaker who was investigating a dangerous cult residing in a secluded apartment building back in the 1990s. This is when the lines between the past and the present begin to blur as the archivist finds himself drawn into the filmmaker's perilous journey. We've got an intricate plot, eerie atmosphere, and unexpected twists at every turn. Of course, crazy cult antics. There is something about the generally mellow personality of the main character, Dan, when juxtaposed with the constrictive, spooky atmosphere and totally bonkers situation that he finds himself in. Well, it just adds to the psychological impact of this one, and it's the main reason why I recommend it. That and the eclectic cast of weird characters that we're introduced to throughout the story. Definitely worth the price of admission. Archive 81 still manages to pull off a thrilling and provoking viewing experience in just one season of 8 episodes. There is one bit of good news here, and it's the fact that this show is based on a real-life podcast of the same name. So, if after watching season 1 of Archive 81, you feel like you just gotta know what happens next, you can always listen to the podcast and get some idea of where the story would have probably gone. This is another Netflix joint, so we can just cut and paste the reasons for the cancellation. Another great show bites the dust. Finally, I want to talk about the worst cancellation story of recent times, and that's Scavenger Reign. The story follows the crew of a damaged spaceship forced to land on a breathtaking yet treacherous planet. The series masterfully blends elements of science fiction, adventure, and horror, creating a captivating atmosphere of isolation and uncertainty. Initially, the survivors are separated into 3 groups, but over time, their paths converge towards the crash-landed ship. I'll just say straight off the bat, this is a one-of-a-kind experience that any lover of animation or sci-fi will probably love. The main draw here, at least for me, is how the show's story constantly confronts the audience with the fear and wonder of the unknown while surprising you at every turn. This one comes highly recommended, especially for fans of sci-fi, as I mentioned, if you like alien encounter films or if you're an anime fan. But remember what I said about streaming services and canceling shows. Rotten Tomatoes gave Scavenger Reign a score of 100%, and critics mostly agreed that this show is phenomenal, but that wasn't enough to save it, and it was canceled after the first season. The good news is that this show still has a shot at being picked up by another publisher. It has a very strong cult-like following, so there is a good reason to believe that this might happen. We might see this show resurrected. Fingers crossed. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like me to do another one of these, I do have a few more that I can think of that are recent that I'd like to do. Remember to be good to yourself, to look out for others, and until next time, off you go.